Everyone, welcome to Plants and Politics. I have some interesting updates to share in regard to Dominion's multi-billion-dollar lawsuits against several, of Donald Trump's minions. The first story has to do with the $1.3 billion defamation lawsuit against Mike Lindell and My Pillow. An appeals court denied Lindell's request to dismiss the lawsuit. So now Lindell's attorneys are ghosting Dominion's legal team. Here's the deal. A court filing this week alleges that Lindell's lawyers have failed to show up at meetings where all of the parties were supposed to get together to hash out scheduling for the case. Evidently, back in September of last year, U.S. District Judge Carl Nichols, he's overseeing this case, he ordered all of the parties to meet as needed just to iron out the details, to go over the discovery process, dates that they could agree upon when everybody was going to ante up and give each other their documents, to figure out when any additional motions might be put forth in the case and so forth. Well, Lindell's legal team initially took part in these meetings. They went to a few of these meetings. And then on January 6th, what is that date again? Yeah, seems like there was something important on that date. Definitely not a coincidence. But on January 6th, Lindell's attorneys informed the other parties, oh, we're not going to come anymore. We're just not going to participate. We won't be there. Sorry. Have fun without us. So this new filing complaining about Lindell's lack of participation, this wasn't just signed and submitted by Dominion alone. Attorneys for all of the other parties signed this document, including lawyers for Sidney Powell, Rudy Giuliani, and Smartmatic. And the document notes that Lindell's attorneys stopped showing up. They said, oh no, we're not going to show up anymore. Go on without us. The day after Dominion demanded their discovery items. Lindell is apparently refusing to hand over any records, all of his documents, phone communications, whatever it is they're requesting. He's required to turn this stuff over under discovery rules, and he won't do it. And they say, no, his attorneys say, no, we're not going to turn over anything until we've exhausted the appeals process. So Lindell is literally banking on the Supreme Court to dismiss Dominion's lawsuit against him. Why? It sure seems like Lindell all of a sudden isn't so sure about all of this election fraud evidence that he's collected. I mean, why wouldn't you want to go to trial and call Dominion executives and other people as witnesses for everyone to see? He keeps saying he has more than enough evidence to overturn the election. He has more than enough evidence to put hundreds of millions of people in prison. He literally said that just a week or two ago. Why wouldn't you want to expose all of this information, all of this evidence, and everything that these people have done in a high-profile, widely reported case? Seems like the perfect place for you to get the message out. And as for Giuliani and Powell, I have to admit, I may have been wrong. I may have been wrong about the two of them being smart enough to know that Donald Trump was full of it. Because those two, Tweedledee and Tweedledum, actually think that they're going to win this case by way of summary judgment, which means that the judge would just rule in their favor without the case even having to go to a jury trial. Really? Seriously? I mean, you guys remember, Giuliani admitted under oath in a deposition, he's literally recorded saying this, that his sources, his so-called sources for all of this election fraud were mostly social media posts. Plus, he was one of the people who was laughed out of court numerous times. And then we find out, several of Sidney Powell's so-called expert witnesses and sources, they've been exposed as liars and literal con artists with previous convictions for fraud. I covered one of them here on the show. I covered a few of them, actually, now that I think about it. They literally, like one of the women that she said had all of this evidence. And, oh my God, she's this expert in computer, whatever the hell she called her. She was literally convicted of defrauding people in her home city, taking money that she said was going to go to some charity for veterans, and she pocketed it and bought food and all kinds of other stuff for herself. That's who these people are. Not to mention the over 60 judges that looked at this so-called evidence and told them to pound sand. Oh, but sure, this one judge he's going to see it all in a different light. He's going to figure out what all of those other 60 plus judges couldn't. I mean, I don't know. Maybe this is what Powell has been waiting for. Maybe she's finally going to release the Kraken. I mean, God, let the poor thing out. It's got to be so shriveled by now, right? She's kept it underwater for almost 2 years, you guys. It's got to be like a raisin, and the tentacles must look like, I don't know, rice noodles or, vermicelli pasta, like all skinny at this point. I was in the pool! Anyway, in regard to Giuliani, he told the judge that he can't hand over his discovery items because he doesn't have anything. According to his attorneys, all of Giuliani's records, all of his communications, anything prior to April of 2021 are in the possession of the FBI because they raided his home and they seized everything. That actually seems legitimate. And Giuliani claims he doesn't have backups for anything or for any of his devices. He said he didn't store anything on the cloud. So we'll see how that shakes out. The last bit of related news is that Dominion told the court recently that there's, quote, no realistic possibility of settlement in regard to these lawsuits. So in a court filing, Dominion's attorneys wrote, quote, given the devastating harm to plaintiffs, the lack of remorse shown by defendants, and the fact that many of them continue to double down on their lies, plaintiffs do not believe any realistic possibility of settlement exists. Now, Giuliani and Powell remain totally defiant. Their attorneys wrote, quote, Powell and Giuliani have nothing to show remorse for and dispute that they have lied about anything. However, they did leave the door open a little bit. They did note in that same filing with that statement that there may be a possibility that they're open to settlement negotiations once the discovery phase is complete. So you know what that means. That means when Powell and Giuliani get Dominion's documents and their communications and they go, oops, oh crap, there really is no evidence of election fraud. Wow, what do we do now? Shit. Reality is going to set in. They're going to have a come to Jesus moment and they're going to realize, oh yeah, we're screwed. Yeah, we're going to be left with nothing. We're going to be left destitute. And so they're going to beg for mercy and they're going to beg for a settlement. The problem for them is that what's the incentive? What incentive does Dominion have to settle? Because these settlement agreements typically stipulate that the parties will concede to no wrongdoing, right? Giuliani and Powell will accept maybe a settlement and say, okay, but I'm not saying I did anything wrong. I'm just going to settle with you for an undisclosed amount. But that's the exact opposite of what Dominion really needs. They need to reestablish their legitimacy in their industry. So they need all parties to admit to the lies, or they, at the very least, need them to acknowledge that they made a mistake, right? I mean, I'm assuming how they're going to let them out of it, maybe, if they do move forward with something. But otherwise, what's the point? Because their reputation has been damaged. So, and they're not going to get billions of dollars out of the likes of Rudy Giuliani. So they have to go for reestablishing their legitimacy. That's the only thing that's in it for them. Oh, well. Anyway, guys, I'll let you know when I hear more. Thanks so much for watching and listening. Take care. I'll talk with you soon.